Most gardeners panic when their summer crops start wilting, leaves yellowing, or stems collapsing, and the first thing they do is dump more water or sprinkle on synthetic fertilizer. That's actually a fast way to stress the plants even further and destroy the microbial life in your soil. I've seen it happen countless times. Tomatoes droop, beans collapse, lettuce bolts, and all because gardeners overlook the one thing that actually revives struggling plants. Living microbes delivered in a form plants can absorb immediately. Today, I'm going to show you how to brew a microbial tea from kitchen scraps that can bring even dead crops back to life in just 24 hours. If you take your gardening seriously, subscribe now because these methods are battle-tested in real raised beds, backyard gardens, and hydroponic systems. Before we dive in, let me mention a tool that makes all the difference. I rely on the RioTemp 36-inch Fahrenheit Backyard Pro Compost Thermometer with digital composting guide to track my compost activity and fermentation temperatures. The link is in the description, and using it ensures your microbial tea reaches maximum potency, without guessing or ending up with weak, ineffective batches. Most gardeners make the mistake of thinking all scraps are equal, tossing every bit of kitchen waste into your garden or compost pile and hoping for the best is a recipe for disappointment. Meat, dairy, and oily leftovers attract pests and produce anaerobic conditions that can harm plants. The best materials are vegetable peelings, fruit cores, herb clippings, coffee grounds, and crushed eggshells. I usually go with a mix of roughly 2/3 greens, which are nitrogen-rich and fuel microbial activity, and 1/3 browns, which provide structure and prevent your tea from becoming a sour sludge. Ignore these ratios, and your so-called miracle tea could end up burning roots or spreading harmful microbes. Chopping your scraps properly speeds up fermentation and improves extraction. Don't just toss whole peels or cores into water. I cut carrot tops, potato skins, and apple cores into pieces no bigger than 2 inches. Smaller pieces increase surface area for microbes to colonize and extract nutrients quickly. In a small backyard garden, I use a 5-gallon bucket for fermentation. For larger raised beds, I scale up to 20 gallons, but I keep the same ratio of ingredients. Over-pureeing is also a mistake. It can create pockets of anaerobic activity, which leads to harmful bacteria and a sour-smelling tea. Temperature and timing are critical, and honestly, most gardeners ignore them. Fermentation isn't instant. The microbial activity in your scraps peaks at certain temperatures. In my experience, keeping your scraps in a compost pile or bucket at 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit encourages the right bacteria and fungi to flourish. This is why I use the RioTemp thermometer. It tells you when your compost is at its microbial peak. Once the chopped scraps are in water, cover loosely and stir every 12 hours for 24 to 48 hours. You're aiming for a rich, earthy aroma. Sour or rotten smells mean something went wrong. Usually too much green material, insufficient aeration, or improper temperature. Here's how to brew microbial tea with the correct ratios. For standard soil applications, I use 1 gallon of fermented scraps per 5 gallons of water. In small raised beds, I pour a gallon or 2 around the base of each stressed plant, letting it soak into the root zone. For foliar spraying, a pump sprayer works well, applied early in the morning or late afternoon to avoid leaf burn. In hydroponics, I scale down to about 1 cup per 5 gallons of nutrient solution. Hydroponic systems are sensitive, and too much microbial tea can upset the balance. Stirring or aerating the tea during fermentation encourages oxygen-loving microbes to thrive, which are the same ones that help plants recover quickly. Consistency is key to seeing results. One batch of microbial tea can save a struggling plant, but the real benefits come from repeated applications. Every 7 to 10 days during summer, I reapply the tea to both soil and leaves. Tomatoes bounce back, yellowing leaves regain color, stems firm up, and flowers that were dropping start producing fruit again. Even hydroponic roots improve in density and nutrient absorption. This is the difference between short-term fixes and building a resilient garden ecosystem. Forget the myths about compost tea. Many gardeners think any tea will work. Wrong. A tea brewed from cold, immature scraps produces weak results and can even harbor harmful microbes. Others rely solely on synthetic fertilizers, expecting them to revive wilted crops. They might temporarily green up leaves, but the underlying microbial network is still dead, leaving plants vulnerable. Fermented microbial tea restores the soil biology and strengthens plants, giving both immediate and lasting benefits. In my experience, one properly brewed batch produces visible results in a single day. Here are some practical tips for using microbial tea in small gardens, raised beds, and even hydroponic setups. In my own backyard garden, I keep a 5-gallon bucket handy for weekly kitchen scraps. I chop them up finely, add some dechlorinated water, and let the mix ferment for about 24 to 48 hours. When it's ready, I apply a gallon or two per plant, making sure to focus on the root zone, and I'll also give the leaves a light mist. For bigger raised beds, you'll want to scale up, using around 10 to 20 gallons of tea across 20 to 30 plants works really well. Now, if you're growing hydroponically, you'll need to use the tea sparingly. Just a cup per tank is enough to keep those microbes active without messing up your nutrient balance. And always check your fermentation temperature with a thermometer, because even small changes can really affect the tea's potency. The real secret here is that microbial tea is alive. These microbes break nutrients down into forms that your plants can absorb right away. Plus, they help suppress harmful pathogens and improve root structure. Store-bought liquids might feed your leaves for a bit, but they just don't rebuild the life in your soil. Over time, microbial tea actually creates a self-sustaining garden system. Plants that get microbial tea on a regular basis end up with stronger stems, better flowering, and higher yields compared to those that rely only on synthetic fertilizers. If your tea starts to smell sour, try reducing the amount of green material you're using or increase aeration. If you notice leaves burning after you apply the tea, just dilute it a bit more. Avoid using airtight containers. Remember, those microbes need oxygen to thrive. And never use scraps that contain meat or dairy. Keep a close eye on temperature because honestly, this is critical. Even just a few degrees too low or too high can weaken microbial growth and really reduce how effective your tea is. So, collect the right kitchen scraps, chop them up finely, ferment under the right temperature conditions, brew using the correct ratios, and apply the tea consistently. If you follow these steps, you'll find that even so-called dead summer crops can bounce back within 24 hours. This method doesn't just save plants, it rebuilds your soil's microbial life, boosts long-term plant resilience, and turns your garden into a thriving ecosystem. Over time, you'll need fewer chemical inputs and you'll see healthier, more productive crops. If you want your garden to survive summer stress and come back stronger, go ahead and subscribe to the Husbandry channel. I share hands-on, tested gardening methods that serious growers can actually count on, not just theory. Share this video with friends who have trouble keeping their crops alive during those hot months. And don't forget to check the description for the RioTemp 36-inch Fahrenheit Backyard Pro Compost Thermometer with digital composting guide. That's the tool I use to make sure every batch of microbial tea reaches peak strength. Grow better food the smart way.